Hey,
everybody.
We are live. We are coming to you live from the Petersen Automotive Museum in beautiful, yet somewhat littered, downtown. What's going on? Downtown Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, all that whole area, Wilshire Boulevard. Here we are. We've got the On Her Majesty's Secret podcast team. We are at the Petersen Museum. We're in the Bond in Motion exhibit. Tons of awesome, authentic, and slightly restored vehicles that we're all very excited to see, and we're going to be talking about today. We'll give you a look at them and talk about them and everything, and we've got a special treat where we've got a list of items that Jarrod and company have put together to go through to talk about. So let's first kind of introduce who all is here, starting on my left.
Oh, you're not introducing me?
Introduce yourself.
I'll introduce myself. Delvin Williams, a.k.a. Dark Web.
Delvin. All right, next up.
Jason Albrecht, a.k.a. the Weasel Skull.
And I am Van Allen Plexico, your host. And also, we are joined by our co-host,
Alan Porter.
There he is. And
I am Jarrod Albrecht, the yard sale artist, also known as Death Probe.
there he is. All right. So we have to first thank the Petersen Automotive Museum for having us out here. This is a really special thing. We've been promoting this exhibit for them, and because it's an awesome thing to promote. But also, they invite us out here to broadcast from the exhibit, which is so awesome. So here we are.
I'm not sure the security officer believes us.
I think he thought that the best thing to do was just humor us, give us a table and chairs, and we'll be gone sooner or later. So
Who else is going to turn up at a museum at 7 a.m.? Just let these guys in.
Yeah, I say tomorrow we should show up at another museum and tell them the same story. See what happens.
Let's ride this pony.
Yeah, just keep going as far as we can. So this really is an awesome museum, an awesome exhibit. I'm looking forward. We've spent a little bit of time already kind of looking around at it, and I'm looking forward to spending some more time. So if you're in the LA area or make a special trip like we did, come and check it out. I think that you will really enjoy it, as you Bond fans will really enjoy it. So on this episode, we are going to reveal the official On Her Majesty's Secret podcast top 10 list of James Bond vehicles as voted on by you, our listeners, and social media followers. All 5 of you, but no, I'm just much more than that, voted on this, and I think your results are very bizarre, but that's okay. We're going to announce them anyway. So Agent Jarrod, with a little help from Agent Allen, these two over here to my right, collected and tabulated your responses from social media.
We did math, people.
Well, when he says we did math, he means they, because I had nothing to do with the math. But they collected and tabulated responses from social media, and we are now, now ready to reveal the list. So first up, I believe our agenda calls for us to tell our single most impressive vehicle here. So let's start on this end with Jarrod and tell us which is your most impressive.
I tell you what, as soon as we came in those doors, one of the first vehicles I saw was the Aston Martin from Living Daylights with its outrigg ski stuff and everything. And I'm a Dalton homer. So that was kind of the first one I locked eyes on, and it's just a gorgeous car. So that's my favorite one.
There you go. All right, Alan.
I'm actually going to say the same thing, partly because, 1, it's an awesome car. 2, it's an awesome stunt model because it's actually not a drivable car. It's a stunt one that they fired up the ramp, which is pretty cool, and the outriggers work and everything. And 3, because, yes, I'm going to talk about the Ian Fleming Foundation a lot because probably 80% of the vehicles here come from the Fleming Foundation. That was actually the first thing I worked on when I joined the Ian Fleming Foundation.
Oh, wow.
Was that actual car. So,
Did you the one who scratched it?
No, I was not the one who scratched it.
What were they thinking letting you have the keys to that thing? My goodness.
No, I put the roof back on, the what do you call it? The sunroof.
Moonroof, sunroof.
Moonroof roof?
Yeah.
I'm going to go over and let Jason go. I'm going to save myself for last.
I'm going to be boring and go with the Aston Martin DB5 that's up there, the Sean Connery Classic. It is beautifully displayed. It's got a floor-to-ceiling picture of Sean Connery in that iconic pose leaning against it. It's everything that's James Bond to me, all summed up in one display.
And Delvin.
Yeah, I was looking at the Lotus Esprit. That was the first thing that caught my eye, Wet Nelly. It was like, oh, that's nice. But then I did see the Aston Martin and was looking at one car and just was magnetically attracted to it. It's Oh, it's so beautiful. It is beautiful.
So nobody's going to say the little airplane hanging from the ceiling.
That's Sanchez's Cessna. I think.
Sanchez's Cessna.
Yeah.
Now, I think, I'll say this. When you walk in here and you see the Sean Connery Aston Martin, you can see all the pictures of it that you want and say, yeah, it's all right. But when you see that thing sitting there, it really is. You just kind of go, dang. Yeah. It's one of those kind of cars you kind of have to see in person, I think, to fully appreciate how remarkable it is. But I'm going to say the full-size Moonraker space shuttle that they have here. Oh wait, no, they don't have a. That's Huntsville.
It's out in the parking lot.
That's actually in Huntsville at the Space and Rocket Center that you can see a quote-unquote Moonraker shuttle. So I think I like the Pierce Brosnan little green mini boat. I didn't remember it was green, but I love Brosnan. I love that movie. All three of his. But
were four of it.
That's true. But the little boat is just so neat because that boat, I think, Alan, you agree, it's like if you had a Formula One car on water.
Yeah, and that actually is still fully functional. It does about 70 miles an hour on the water. It is a beast.
Wow, it actually works.
Yes, it is.
You take it out fishing whenever you and Q take it out fishing.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's my retirement plan.
There you go. That's awesome. That's so good. All right, so we've checked in with the team. I think it's time to count down the actual list of who voted what. So, number 10, Jarrod, take it.
What came in at number 10? That was the Yamaha, or no, the Toyota. Yeah, Toyota. Yamaha's part of the story, though. The Toyota 2000 GT. Said it right, didn't I?
Yep.
You're our expert.
You did.
Okay.
Yep.
That came in at number 10. So as voted on by you, number 10 is the Toyota 2000 GT.
Could you describe which one that is?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the little white Japanese sports car from You Only Live Twice.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that car.
In my research for it, I was really amazed by it. It was, well, first of all, most Bond fans know that they actually didn't make a convertible. Those were made special for Sean Connery. They took two of them, literally cut the roof off, and turned them into convertibles because it's a small person's car.
I was just about to ask, is it because he's too tall?
Yeah,
Yes,
it was,
absolutely. I watched a video of Jay Leno got to drive one of the ones from the movie, and Jay Leno was cramped. and even Jay was like, Connery's taller than me. And so it's a cramped car. Basically, he would have been like, head cocked to the side in there. Anyways, what I found out about it is it's known as Japan's first $1 million car because it is their first sports car that actually sold for over $1 million in the aftermarket.
Wow.
I didn't realize a lot of things. First of all, it's a Yamaha design. That's why I accidentally said Yamaha to start with. It's a Yamaha design that Yamaha brought to them and said, hey, would you be interested in doing? Actually, they brought to Nissan first, and Nissan said no. And then they brought it to Toyota. And they made the numbers I keep finding online are kind of in the same ballpark. I see different numbers, but they only made like 300 and what would you say, Alan? People say like 350. I've seen 350.
I think 350 is the accepted number.
Yeah, it's like I see 352. And anyways, they made a very limited amount. And what I didn't realize is like it was made to compete with brands like Porsche and Ferrari, and like it's in that elite category. It is definitely Japan's most sort of famous, expensive, sought after holy grail of sports cars. It had only been designed the year before, or well, it was in design before that, but kind of production models came out the year before Bond. The Bond movie really helped kind of give it that extra punch to put it on the map. And so there you have it. And does Bond ever drive it in the movie? I don't think he does. I think Aki drives it.
It's Aki, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I probably went on too long. Guys, I know you've got additional because he's our Alan's our car guy. I know he's got additional. Anybody got any thoughts on the little white sports car from Japan before I give it to Alan to put icing on this cake?
I love it. It's awesome. It's so cute. And Aki looks cute in it with her little scarf and everything. She's a good accessory for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's definitely the car for Aki. When I think of that car, I think of Aki, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Alan.
so just to pick up on something Jarrod said, there was actually only 2 convertibles made for the movie. What happened to those convertibles? Well, one was eventually, I don't know how, but it ended up in Hawaii and was found in Hawaii and bought by Toyota, and they took it back to Japan and refurbished it, and it's now in the Toyota Museum. And the second one apparently was wrecked by somebody when they were test driving it in Japan in the mid-70s and was supposedly written off. But there's also reports that it actually was restored and is in the hands of a private owner somewhere around. So, but there are, I think there's at least one other show one in a museum somewhere that is not necessarily the real thing, but just a show car. So a little confusion about what actually happened to the second of those and where it is. So
some of the aftermarket ones have been converted to convertible, by the way.
Yes.
So if you see a convertible one out there, don't be like, you guys are liars. They only made two. Some have been converted in the aftermarket.
Yeah.
All right. So Alan, you are up next.
All right, just back to me. So number 9 came in a car that I fell in love with when I was 10 years old when I first saw it on a Majesty's Secret Service in the movie theater, and that is Tracy's Red Mercury Cougar, which is sitting right in my line of sight just over there, which you guys can't see. Great car, a beautiful sports car of the time. And the one they actually have here is the one from the Ian Fleming Foundation, and my wife and I were lucky enough to work on it to get it ready to come here. So the fact that I sort of fell in love with that car at 10 years old and then years later actually get to work on it was just a dream come true. It's a beautiful car, beautiful to sit in. It's really wide inside and lots of room. It's got one of those bench front seats from back then.
Yeah.
Beautiful car. This particular one was found in a shed in Sweden, I believe.
Rocky things.
Yeah, we've done some restoration work.
Sweden shed,
Jason was asking me about the skis on the back. If they're the original ones, they're not. They're period ones that we managed to source and put back on there. This is the car that you see Tracy driving at the beginning of the movie and in the beginning of the car chase. I think there was 4 used in the movie. 2 that were just roads, and then 2 that we used for the stock car race and the scenes after the stock car race because it needed to have the damaged front when it was back in the car chase. So there's the pristine road ones, and then there's the stock car race damaged ones. One of the other road car ones sold, I think it was in 2020, for $485,000 in auction. So that's a special car. It's a beautiful car. It's great to work on, and like I say, it's been one of my go-to vehicles since 1969, and it's great to see it here.
I have a question for you. All right, because you and I have talked about this before, Alan. Fords pop up a lot in these movies.
They do.
And it's not a company that I would normally have associated other than Ford versus Ferrari, right? Where they deliberately tried to get into the fast car industry. Yeah. Ford is not a car I would associate with James Bond, other than it is very associated with James Bond. Do we know why Ford keeps popping up?
It's down to Lee Iacocca, basically, who was head of marketing at Ford at the time. If you watch Ford versus Ferrari, he actually makes a remark about the fact that Bond and Aston Martin is so closely associated, we should be doing something like that.
Right.
It was basically down to him coming up with a very early for a Bond movies, subtle product placement by having Fords throughout them. They used the Bond movies to launch the Ford Mustang. If you actually watch Goldfinger, the first time the Ford Mustang is actually ever seen on screen is in Goldfinger. Oh. And that was actually a couple of months before I think they launched the car, a couple of weeks before they launched the car.
Oh, wow.
And there's actually a Mustang in, I think, the next 3 or 4 movies. And then you do see Fords scattered throughout right the way through into the Daniel Craig. If you actually look at in Casino Royale, when he pulls up in the parking lot outside Casino Royale, every car in that parking lot is a Ford or a brand owned by Ford at that time.
His rental car was a Ford too, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Ford Mondeo, which the foundation does have, but actually isn't here at the moment. But
That's
it's in the barn in Switzerland.
It's in a workshop in Illinois, but close.
All right, so let's see.
Good question, though.
Yeah, so who's next? Jason,
yeah,
you have number 8.
Number 8, I was lucky enough to get selected to talk about the first Bond car, the Sunbeam Alpine from Dr. No.
You immediately say Alpine.
Was Alpine? No, it is Alpine.
It is Alpine.
I was going to say, on YouTube they said Alpine.
The dumb Formula One team calls it Alpine because they're French. Ignore them. Carry on.
So what I learned about the Sunbeam Alpine, other than Sunbeam makes delicious bread.
True.
Saturday matinee theater plug. Was that there was only about 45,000 ever put into production. It was a pretty popular car. I wrote down the name of the company here. I forget. Let me check my notes. It was made by, There you go for Jarrod there. It was made by a company called the Roots Group out of the UK. And they made 5 series from 1962 to through about 1967. And the one that James Bond drives in Dr. No is from the first series. And you can kind of tell because only the first and second series have the tail fins, which you'll notice in the film. Now, the chase scene made famous in Dr. No, where he's being chased by the hearse, that Alpine Sunbeam is not going to go that fast. It gets up, it'll do about 70, 75, on the Autobahn, as it were. But that it is way overpowered by that hearse. So there's a little movie magic in there, though. Originally, the producers were approached by Aston Martin they offered to provide a car for the Bond film, but producers were a little gun shy. This was the first one. They wanted to save some money. They didn't have a large budget, so the car that you see on screen was actually locally owned in Jamaica by a physician who just loaned the car for the movie, and so that was James Bond's first car. I will say, I watched some YouTube videos of it. It's very popular and still in the UK. There are like driving clubs that go out and drive around in these Sunbeam Alpines, and you can go on YouTube and do like a virtual ride along.
Oh, that's cool.
It runs very smooth, very quiet, very, very, very nice little car. And that was the car that introduced us to the cinematic world of 007.
I gotta say though, Jason, I think that if I was in a slow car and there was a hearse full of assassins chasing me, I could make it go a little faster. A hearse full of assassins just is like not something you want chasing you. I don't.
That is
It's
true.
a good band name, though.
It is. Hearse full of assassins. Heck
But
yeah.
it rides low to the ground, so he was able to go under that.
I love the fact that Super Spy James Bond's first car was a loaner.
That's right.
And by the way, if anybody knows where that is, let me know, because that is like the holy grail of the collectible Bond cars. Nobody knows where it is because it was a loaner. Nobody's been able to trace it. So
Wow.
Yeah, the one I saw on YouTube, somebody had procured one. It was all banged up, and so he restored it, and it was really interesting to see what he had to go through to restore the car. He had to get like gaskets for the windshield custom made. It was a beast. And actually, there's not a key. There's a crank,
right.
that goes in the door handle. So he had to find like the crank so you can put it in the socket and turn. It's really a unique car. I encourage you all to check it out on YouTube if you get a chance. It's a fun little ride.
Very nice. All right, and Delvin, you have number 7.
Oh, hold on, Dylan. Sorry about that.
I appreciate that, Jason. Number 7 is the Lotus Esprit Bronze from For Your Eyes Only. So, slight mea culpa in that, I didn't fully understand the assignment. I did look up some YouTube videos.
You did more than me then.
But when I saw the YouTube videos, there was a bunch of terms that had I even tried to say them that I would have looked like a complete idiot. So I will at least read a interesting anecdote from media.lotuscars.com about the Lotus Esprit. Before the Lotus Esprit had even been chosen as 007's transport, Lotus PR boss Don McLaughlin pulled off a high-risk stunt of his own. It was a part of a strategy to make the Bond franchise production team based at Pinewood Studios actually want the Esprit for the next James Bond film. Don was trying to get a Lotus Europa onto the new Avengers TV series, and it didn't quite work. So he was tipped off that the Bond producers were looking for a car that could become a submarine. Of course, that info was highly confidential at the time, so Don, rather than approach the Bond production team directly, needed a way to get them to come to him. He took a red pre-production Esprit down to Pinewood Studios and let the car do the talking. Early one morning, he parked it outside the main door where all the senior management had their offices and left it in such a way that everyone had to walk around it to get to the building. To encourage further interest, he removed or covered any branding from the car, including on the speedometer, gear knob, and steering wheel. He even covered up the word Lotus on the tax disc. Don moved it several times around the studio complex throughout the day to ensure it was seen by as many people as possible. At the end of the day, where a small crowd had gathered around the car, Don, saying nothing except, "Excuse me, please," pushed past, got in the car, and drove off. The production team interest was piqued, and as a colleague who was conveniently one of Don's friends at Pinewood to find out what the car was, Pinewood, the response, the friend said, "I can't really tell you. It's a prototype." Under further pressure, he responded, "Oh, all right, then I can give you a phone number." The film's head of special effects duty called Lotus, and the rest is history.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's the describe that one for us, people that can't just instantly visualize these cars from the name.
So this is the second one. So there's two Lotus Esprits in Fiora's only. There's the first one that gets blown up because it has the burglar alarm.
Oh,
thing
right.
on
It's a
it.
good burglar system.
Burglar system, and it blows up. And then this is the second one where Bun goes to Italy, Cortina, and he's driving around, and it's the bronze one. It's the Lotus Esprit Turbo, and it has skis along the back. It's like bronze with a slightly darker trim on it.
Nice.
It's a nice car. I got to sit in that when it was on a promotional tour for the movie. My dad got invited to some event. I have no idea how. I can't remember. But he took me along, and I got to sit in that car. So that was pretty cool. So I think actually that when we put in our votes, that was either my number 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah, it was on your list.
It was definitely
Is
on
that
my
the
list.
car that Ferrara was killed in?
Yeah, that's the
Yes.
car that Ferrara was killed in. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6 is me, and the Ford Mustang from Diamonds Are Forever. So that would be like a 1970, I'm thinking, Mustang, something like that. And where is it?
It's right in the far corner.
I can't see it. Oh, well, too
In
bad.
unrestored condition.
I'm just going to say if it's a Ford Mustang from that era, because the early 70s are when Fords still kind of look good to me. By the time you get to the 80s, no Ford. But in the 70s, they still, because they got so boxy, but they were still curvy. Yeah. And so I remember, is that the one that that the Bond girl, what's her name? Tiffany drives around in?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys, what do you guys have to say about that car? Because I really don't remember much about it.
I think it's cool. I like how you can go in 2 wheels one side, come out 2 wheels.
Oh yeah, it's amazing magical ability.
Gyroscopic.
Yes.
No, that's all I got.
Well, that's the one that they drove around the parking lot of the casinos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can see the mint
Yes.
behind it and everything, which just goes on to be on the cover of my book. Okay, Alan, what do you got about it?
How long you got? So as I said, it's actually sitting in the far corner from where we're sat. It is the one vehicle in here that is in an unrestored state. It shows pretty much what vehicles look like when we find them and bring them into the foundation for restoration. It was, as Jarrod said, they filmed part of it in Vegas where it went in on one stage, and then they filmed it coming out of the alley here in California where it was on the other wheels. And after it had been filmed here in California, basically it was just left here in the studio, ended up in a scrapyard here in California for a while. Because it was in California, it was in the sun, it didn't actually get too degraded. It has a special engine in it, so people were more interested in it for the engine. And the guy in Texas bought it because of the engine in it, wanted spares for that particular engine, and it sat in his garage, which is where we found it. And they've got it up on 2 wheels here, like it's in the thing, but it's got a Starsky and Hutch type stripe on it with snake skins painted on it. It's in a real mess, and if you actually get around, you're not allowed to here, but if you get around it and underneath it, it's actually all the floor is like lace. It's all been rusted away and stuff. When we got it, the transmission and the gearbox was actually in the back seat.
It's not where that goes.
Which is not where it goes.
Usually, no.
But it's interesting that they had it in Bond Emotion in London, and they've done it here too, that they actually wanted an unrestored vehicle in the display to sort of show what it looks like. So it was quite a journey to actually find that one, because there's a lot of these Mustang Mark 1s around that say they're the James Bond car, but that is the actual one that did the 2-wheel stunt.
Nice.
So.
All right. Well, we're supposed to thank our patrons here, but I do not have an itemized list of all y'all currently. So I will just say thank you to all of our patrons for
Thank you.
you know them, you love them, you can't live without them. All of our great patrons, and I always like to point out that you can always, this is a very popular thing that people do now, is you can put whatever name you want into the name thing on Patreon. And I generally read whatever it says and look like an idiot with some of them. But that's what people like. People want to see me look like an idiot reading these crazy names.
Y'all
So
are Ron Burgundy.
I was like,
stuff like yeah, exactly. So so knock yourselves out with that. Go to I guess the best way for this show is just to go to patreon.com and just search White Rocket and sign up, become a patron.
Yeah. Shout out to Darren and Ruth.
Yes.
Shout out to Joseph Iliff. These are a
Yes.
couple of patrons I know that are
The
specifically
big Bond. Yeah.
Bond people.
Don Zuderman.
Don Zuderman, Matt Robenheimer. So yeah, I'm sure we forgot somebody, but thank you guys.
Yeah.
You guys make stuff like this happen. We have complete private access to all this, so we're getting in all these vehicles. Don't tell the Petersen.
My pockets are full of souvenirs.
It's well, you know, instead of taking my flight home, I was just going to drive. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I'll fly a little Cessna back home. That would be nice. All right, well, let's get into this.
Make better time.
Probably better time than it
That'll
took
be
me to
easier
get
than
here.
yesterday, wouldn't it?
Oh, there's whole stories there that we're not going to get into. We're having the happy time now. We're in the happy place. All right, we're to the 5th round. We're in the upper half of the countdown. Casey Kasem. And so number 5, we go to Jarrod. Who is number 5? What is number 5, Jarrod?
Number 5 is the Aston Martin DBS.
Mhm.
You're here to correct me when I'm wrong, Al, but
Uh-huh.
I believe it's just to our left.
No, that's the Quantum one.
I thought you drove the same one twice. My mistake.
No.
My mistake. Anyway, the DBS
one.
from there it is. There it is.
It
From
is
Casino.
They
It is
kinda
built
look
to our left,
similar.
but it's behind the pillar.
Aha, I was close, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
the one from Casino, the one that's very famous because it flipped 7 times, set a world record
Yeah.
Yes.
for flipping it.
I
The
know
funny,
that 'cause I just read it.
oh, I just read off the thing. Yeah, that one is kind of interesting to do research on because we've been in James Bond car lore for so long. Like when I went to do research, they're like, it's the new Bond car. It's an Aston. They're like, okay, give me something I can talk about on the podcast. And the funny thing is, one of the most interesting things I found out about it is almost silly and banal, but we think of Daniel Craig as the modern era James Bond. But that car came on the scene in the 2006, and that was before the proliferation of smartphones. So there's no Bluetooth in it or anything.
No, yeah.
I was watching a guy who was posting a video who owns one, and he was like, this is a Bond car and it has a CD player in it. He's like, when you think of Daniel Craig era Bond, you wouldn't think there'd be a CD
right.
player. You got to get the attachment, you know. It's almost like you had to get the cassette, you know, that had the little
Yeah,
cords.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
gonna say it would not be the best look of like Daniel Craig's like reaching in the back seat for that CD.
This cassette CD.
Closing time.
So I mean, it's
the car pros.
it's a gorgeous car, and it's awesome, and it sounds great. I did read about how they do. I will add this: that how the sound guys for the movie do it. They literally for hours, and I saw it specific to this car, drive it around under different conditions, different speeds, and they have like 6, 7, 8 different microphones at different places in the car, so they get all the different sounds the car makes, so they can edit that in during the.
That's
and
cool.
they will
Yeah.
have 30, 40, 50 hours of sound that they're going through for what, a 20-second moment in a car chase. But that, to me, the craft that they put into that is amazing. The other thing I learned from, I won't steal it from you, Alan. Let them know about the flipping thing that you told me
Yeah.
yesterday.
Well, I actually told you something wrong yesterday, so I'm not
Oh,
going to tell you
thank
that.
God.
Good thing you passed me back.
Yeah. So I did a bit more research last night. When they were setting this up, the DBS is actually too heavy. They couldn't get it to flip.
Right.
So they put a cannon in the floor. So there's a cannon in the floor that basically shoots out a metal pole. So that got it up and spinning. And they didn't set out to set a world record. It just kept going and going and going and going.
Oh,
So,
That's kind of how the Indiana Jones
Yeah,
truck
the truck
rolled
rolled
over.
over.
yeah.
I think
It's a well-known technique, but they originally, because this is where I got it slightly wrong. I believe that when they first did it, they tried it with a DB9, which is what I told you yesterday.
Liar.
And the DB9 flipped, but when they tried it with the DBS for the actual movie, it was too heavy and they couldn't get it
To flip.
to
so
flip.
The cannon.
So they put the cannon underneath it, and
I did
that fires it. If you watch the movie, you can sort of see that first one is a pretty explosive
Yeah.
It was
jump.
like Danny McBride, their
Yeah.
special effects coordinator.
Yeah.
Well, like Alan
But I'm
said,
sat here looking at it now, and it's like, wow, that came out of that thing in a mess. I mean, they've got the
Oh.
post-roll version here, and it is a
Yeah,
mess.
that right rear tire is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
nearly horizontal.
I don't think you want your tires like this
Yeah.
angle right here, guys. Yeah. So, all right. So let's see who's up. That was round 5, the Aston Martin DBS. So, Alan, you now have Little Nelly the gyrocopter.
Oh, spoil it. Why not? Yeah, number 4. Big reveal is Little Nelly the gyro, the auto gyro. So it isn't here. I know when they did Bond in Motion in London, they had it, and I would just stand there and stare at it. My wife Jill was moaning because we had the whole exhibit to walk around, and I just kept standing and staring at Little Nelly. And they were projecting, like they do here, you can't see it, but they've got screens behind each of the exhibits showing where they're used in the movie. And they were running the Little Nelly scene, which I've seen like a million times, and I just stood there watching it over and over and over and over. It's my favorite. I don't know whether it's a vehicle or a gadget. I don't know how you. I guess it's a vehicle.
sure, takes you from point A to point B.
Point B. It's also sort of a gadget because it comes out of Q's briefcase.
Yeah.
Briefcases.
Really
so-
big briefcases.
really big briefcases. So it's started out as an auto gyro created by a guy called Commander Wallace, Royal Air Force, who built these one-man auto gyros to try to sell to the Royal Air Force. They didn't really take to them as one-man weapon platforms. Pretty similar to the Lotus story in the fact that I think he kept sort of dropping subtle hints to the Bond people that this might be a cool thing to put in a Bond movie. And they eventually hired him to do it, and they put all the weapons on. Nearly all the weapons worked. They actually were air missiles. When they weren't explosive, but they did fire and stuff like that, and they did drop mines. And he did all the flying in this thing. I think they did about 8 hours of flying for the 5-minute scene with Little Nelly against real helicopters and stuff, all choreographed. So it was very cool. There's no CGI then. That's all real aerial photography and stuff.
I swear, between that story about, oh yeah, like, could you imagine waking up that morning, like, for work, and like knowing that you're gonna just be flying Little Nelly around, like,
Yeah.
what a great day!
And one of the things I actually love about it, if you actually think about that scene, it doesn't advance the plot. It's there for no reason at all,
other than it's cool.
Other than it's cool and to show off Little Nelly,
Absolutely.
And again, I've been lucky to see her at a couple of air shows over the years in the UK. She used to be pretty regular, show up at various air shows, do demonstration flights. So it was very, very cool. I went to one when I used to work in the aerospace, and we had Concorde there, and we were doing Concorde. They were literally doing flights on Concorde, and really the star of the show was this tiny little auto gyro, and everybody was like, "Oh, do gyro!" Oh yeah, Concorde. Oh, Little Nelly! Everybody was like, loving it. So that's my favorite Bond vehicle. It's the one that sits on my desk. Unfortunately, she's not here. I was hoping she would be, but
Where do you suppose it is right now?
I guess she's back with Eon or the folks in the UK who actually own it. So
Nah. Yeah, I was going to say, to be fair, there's several things in that movie that really don't need to be there and are just there for fun.
well, yeah, that's the whole movie basically.
It's a bunch of non sequiturs that end up with the volcano. So there you go. Let's see. So round 3 goes to Jason. Who do you have for the third one?
Well, I've got the other Lotus, the Lotus Esprit from Spy Who Loved Me. And took my anecdote, Delvin. Took my anecdote. That's okay. I got another. No, as Delvin indicated, it was it John McLaughlin? Don McLaughlin?
It's
Don McLaughlin.
Yes. Don.
Yeah, it was his design. They were trying to come up with a car to rival Ferrari at the time. And so this was the first attempt. And apparently it's quite a good car. Handles very well. It's unique in that you have to actually fill up both sides. There's a gas tank on both sides of the vehicle. So that might be a little hassle when you're at the pump. Like, oh, can't quite reach it.
Austin powers your way.
Yeah, not only
just
that,
know
but
everybody
that
might be
thing's
between the
crazy.
two islands.
That thing is not regular unleaded.
So I think my favorite anecdote about that, and there's tons of stuff on YouTube about this car. Obviously, it was made famous by that chase scene, and then when it converts into the submarine, especially, and that's what they have here, what they call the Wet Nelly version that we've been looking at with the little swim fins and everything. But the story that I found amusing is when they were doing a press tour in Paris, they brought the car, and driver had left the car parked. They had movie plates. They didn't have actual legal license plates. So a French police officer ticketed. And so the driver's like, no, I'm for the James Bond film. This is a promotional thing for the James Bond film. And the police officer's like, oh, okay, cool. And so he's like, I'll give you an escort and everything to the event. Gave him an escort to the event, set it up, and then gave him the ticket anyway. And here's your ticket, by the way. And so I guess there was a advertisement in the British papers that says 007 done in for speeding. and Albert Broccoli just really loved it. Just thought that was
he could have just led the cops to the water and then just gone off in the ocean. And how are they going to pull him over? How are they going to pull you over now, cop?
Come get me.
See you at the finish line.
Well, the question I always had about it is, how does the fish get inside?
Yeah, I've always wondered that.
Never figured that one out.
I think you had to be in there when they started out that day.
Yeah, it was just part of the lunch. And
Part of the packed lunch.
It's the only way that makes any sense. Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing I'll say to wrap this up is that, personally for me, this is one of the scenes that really brought me into the world of James Bond as a kid. When I was growing up, the first time I saw James Bond, and for a while, the only time I could see James Bond was on the Sunday night at the movies on television. And whenever Spy Who Loved Me came on, I remember the first time watching that scene, just to be like, that is so cool, having a car become a submarine, shooting down helicopters, people trying to chase him, and he's blowing them up with torpedoes and mines. And I just thought that was cool. And every time at 50 years old, I see that scene, I still... little piece of me feels that same feeling. So I was very happy to get this car for my pick today.
That was the first Bond movie I saw in the theater, and so I remember that just being a gog at the Lotus turning into a submarine, because we had the airplane, right, in Man with the Golden Gun, and then we had a car turned into a submarine. So really, what was left to turn a car into at that point? if you turn into an airplane, you turn into a submarine. I mean, you're pretty much you covered it all at that point.
He turned it into a train, an octopus. When he got
he did turn it into a train. That's right. Yeah, good one.
Well remembered. Yeah.
All right, so Delvin,
Can I actually?
Oh yes, please.
Because I was telling Delvin this story earlier. Sorry, I don't mean to dominate the podcast, but this is my territory.
Yes.
I was telling Delvin earlier. So the one we have here is one of the stunt ones that does a particular shot. It does this is the one that fires the missile.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay. But the actual drivable one that starts everything off and they drove off and has most of the gadgets was lost for years. And then a couple went to one of these lockup auctions where you basically bid on a lockup without knowing what's in it,
Yeah.
and paid like $200 or something.
Oh, come on.
No, this is true.
Storage wars.
Storage wars type thing. And then at the back, underneath the tarpaulin, was this white car.
No.
And they put it on a trailer and were trailering it home and stopped off in a diner. And we're having dinner, and somebody walked in and said, "Whoa, who has that James Bond car out there?" And they were like, "Well, that's our trailer, but what do you mean a James Bond car?" They'd never watched a James Bond movie in their
my
life. They didn't know what it
gosh.
was.
They didn't deserve it.
No.
So they eventually got in
No.
touch with the foundation. One of the guys who founded the Ian Fleming Foundation went along and verified it, and it was actually the actual Lotus from The Spy Who Loved Me.
How did it wind up there?
Nobody knows, but it's now owned by
Exact same question I asked.
no, it's now owned by Elon Musk. He paid a considerable amount of money for it. Let's put it that way.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I yard sale every Saturday.
They're just waiting to find that Aston
See,
Martin
in answer
DB5. The
to
missing
your
Aston
question,
Martin
this
DB5.
is why like the stranger finds, like, have you found it? Like, if
If I had found it, I would have had a heart attack.
That would be the end of it. You
Yeah.
fall over dead, and there wouldn't be any more. Then they'd be like, "Well, I died." Yeah, we don't know why. Holy cow! All right, so
number two.
number two, Delvin.
All right, number two, looking at Jason's crotch, is
Who does number 2 work for?
the Aston Martin DB5 from Goldfinger. And let's see, no cool. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'll read the facts that I found about the DB5. The DB5 entered production in 1963. It was named for David Brown, the English industrialist who bought Aston Martin in 1947.
I did not know that.
Only 123 DB5 convertibles were made from 1963 to 1965. What set the DB5 apart was his amazingly good looks, which is, obviously. Yeah, it's regularly called one of the most beautiful cars ever made. In the novel Goldfinger by Ian Fleming, I don't know if you guys knew that.
Okay.
Heard of him, yeah.
Heard of him, yeah.
The Chitty Chitty Bang Bang guy.
Bond drove an Aston Martin
Jackson.
DB Mark III. But by 1964, the DB5 was the newest model on the line, so that's what Sean Connery drove in the film version. Bond's version of the car had 2 machine guns, battering ram bumpers, revolving license plates, a navigation system way ahead of its time, and an ejector seat. The Goldfinger scene where Q gave Bond the DB5 was shot in the Aston Martin factory.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
There you
cool.
Yeah.
But you know, I always have to wonder, even though his cutting edge GPS was awesome in that movie, could you imagine if your phone just went beep, beep, the entire time you were using that? You'd be like, shut up.
Yeah, for the first 5 minutes, it would be cool. And after that, kill the prime minister.
Jarrod, I've never had a computer that goes tick-a-lick-a-tick-a-lick-a-tick. So that's it. Can we? I mean, countdown aside, I mean, we have to say that isn't that the most associated vehicle with Bond?
Yes.
It's
It is
I mean,
the
it's,
iconic vehicle.
yeah, it's really remarkable, and it even shows up again in the Cannonball Run. Is it the same?
It's actually that car. Yes, it is the DB5.
Same car in the Cannonball Run. So, man, that's another movie that I wish they would do an exhibit. I'd come right back out here if they had just the cars from the Cannonball Run, because there's so many, including the Lamborghini. And,
That was actually the Cannonball Run was that car's last movie appearance before it disappeared. So
it went into seclusion. What did it
No.
do?
you don't know the story of the DB5?
No.
Let me tell you the story.
Let me tell you the story.
Here now, the ballad of the DB5.
And it is. I'm not going to tell you the full story. There's actually, I have a whole article on Hero Collector about the fate of the DB5. So there was, in Goldfinger, there was 2 main DB5s. There was the hero car with all the gadget car, and then there was the road vehicle car, because within all the gadgets on it was actually too heavy to drive on the road. So long story short, the gadget car ended up owned by a guy in Miami in, I think it was I maybe get my dates wrong, mid-80s, midnight or early 90s. And he had it in his hangar, and it was stolen overnight. It has literally disappeared off the face of the earth. There are 2.
Elon Musk has it.
There are basically 2 theories. One, that it was an insurance job, and it was basically it was dragged out. I mean, they found the chain marks and stuff where it was dragged out of the hangar, that it was put in a plane, driven out over the sea, and dumped into the sea for an insurance scam. And the other one is that there is somewhere in the Middle East in a private collector's thing, and occasionally, and it happened like about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you see all these suddenly things. The missing DB5 has been found, and it hasn't actually been found. You just keep getting these little hints that it may be somewhere in the Mideast.
I'm just
And
saying.
there is a huge reward out for anybody that can actually get information at least to its actual recovery. But I will never believe it's been found until we actually get a picture of it with the actual chassis number and stuff, which we've never seen yet. So unfortunately, I think it's sitting at the bottom of the Florida Keys somewhere.
I don't know. You saying Miami 1980s probably had something to do with something that rhymed with cocaine.
Probably.
So, but there are other.
Yes.
So the non-gadget car was actually, once it went back into private ownership, people put gadgets back in it. There's also a couple of display cars that were built for around the time of Thunderball that went on the press stuff that have the gadgets in, and they're around. There's one in a museum in Holland. I haven't actually looked at that DB. It's the one car I've not actually gone and looked at.
I haven't gone over there yet either.
What is this one? Which
Well,
one
that's
is
what I
it?
said. I don't know what this one is. I've
Oh,
not been
okay.
over and looked at it yet. But
Maybe they found the real one.
yeah, it's just sitting here.
It's just
yeah,
been
yeah.
sitting here in Petersen all this time. Yeah.
So the actual Goldfinger gadget DB5 has disappeared.
So let's see. How many Bonds got to drive that car? We know Roger Moore had it in Cannonball Run, and we know that Connery had it originally.
That was the last thing that I
Did-
had on my
didn't-
notes.
Didn't Daniel Craig drive it at
Yes.
one point
Yes.
in Skyfall?
Yes,
So those
Petersen, Goldeneye.
and No Time to Die.
okay.
You know, it was a BMW. but-
Pierce got to drive it.
In Goldeneye at the beginning.
Yeah, it
Goldeneye.
says
Oh, okay.
the last snippet of information I have says, but the DB5 kept coming back in 007 films, appearing in Thunderball, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Casino Royale.
and cold enough.
So
Not according to this.
It's a different DB5.
so that means
It's got a
that
different license plate.
so other than Lazenby is
No, Lazenby's driven it on screen.
when
Man from
In the
Uncle?
Return from Man from Uncle, where he played Agent JB, driving a silver Aston Martin DB5.
there you go.
Timothy Dalton is the only one.
I was just about to say, so Timothy Dalton is the only one,
Shut up,
man. There you go.
Hey,
Well,
actually, before we move on, I know it's not in the script. For those of you watching or listening, you probably noticed that Pat couldn't be with us. Unfortunately, he couldn't make the trip. So shout out to Pat. And Pat, he actually texted me his favorite Bond vehicle. He says it's the cello case from the Living Daylights. So I'm not making that
Going
up.
outside the box. I picked the space shuttle. He picked the cello case. That's good.
He literally just texted me and said, "Tell him my favorite is the cello case."
love
So
it.
shout out
I
to
love
Pat.
it.
Sorry,
But we
back-
talked on our show. We talked about how you can take that thing all the way down a mountain, have it shot, and still play it in an orchestra.
So, yeah,
It's quite remarkable. And I have to point out, I think that if you're never associated with the Aston Martin DB5, doesn't that make you kind of a lesser Bond than the other Bond?
No, because if you're associated with the best Aston Martin that I've looked
Well, let's see what's number one, Alan.
Yeah,
let's
let's
just
see
see what's
what's
number
number
one.
one.
Don't try and tear down Timmy D on the show.
The number one is the space shuttle from America.
Wait a minute.
That's what I voted for, but dang it, no. It is the Aston Martin V8. I could have had a V8.
You can. It's right there.
From the Living Daylights.
Looking right at
Wow.
it.
So Jarrod basically went out and found a bunch of Dalton fans.
Remember, Alan and I worked the math on it.
Stop the steal is all I'm saying here.
I gotta tell you, I
All
was
right.
legitimately shocked.
I was surprised when we
So
were doing it.
you guys talk about that car because you know all about it.
Alan, it's you.
Well, actually, in the Living Daylights, there's two, because there's I'm going to get this the wrong way around, and I'm going to get killed for it. But there's the Volante and the Vantage, because one's the convertible and then in the movie they say they winterize it. They're actually two completely separate cars. There's the convertible and the hardtop. It's great. I mean, really, it's an update of the DB5. It's got pretty much the same sort of gadgets, but it's got lasers coming out of the hubcaps instead of revolving hubcaps.
Right.
It's got the runners. It's got the
The sides, for those that don't know these by just the name, this is the black one that has the skis that come out the sides and they drive it across like a frozen lake or something.
Yeah,
right?
they do. Yeah.
But to me, that doesn't look like the same caliber of car
Oh, it is.
as the silver thing over in the corner. That
It's like that, like a muscle car version of that. to me.
that's exactly. I like it. I'm just saying it doesn't. If you told me that this and the other were both Aston Martins, I'd be like, no, there's no way.
Oh, to me, no, that's definitely got the Aston Martin heritage. It looks like
Okay.
for it.
You got drama on this
to be honest,
podcast. I like it.
I actually think that also the fact that it was used in No Time to Die helped bump it up
Yes.
the rankings a little bit.
It brought it back in the public.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it was, Bond was in it, and it was also the final car that you saw, the final drive in No Time to Die. I think that really.
Look baller too.
Question
Yeah,
for
it did.
Alan, if you know or not, I think I read somewhere that Aston Martin V8, Living Daylights, is the first time that they didn't debut the car in the movie. Like it had been out for a couple of years before
it was already around.
Okay.
It wasn't a new, it was like the current Aston Martin,
Yeah.
top of the line Aston Martin sports car.
Kind of like Timothy Dalton had been around for a little
And then they debuted him in
Yeah.
Living Daylights.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what,
But
it's a gorgeous car.
it's a gorgeous car. The fact, as we mentioned earlier, that when we walked in through the doors, that was like the first thing that we saw was just like, oh, perfect.
And I'll agree with Alan to your point, Van. I mean, I think any top 10 list of Bond cars is probably going to be DB5 at the top, but I was shocked when the V8 was at the top.
Yeah,
But I really agree with Alan. I think it might be because it's a well thought of car, and then it came back in No Time to Die, and I think people went, I forgot how awesome that car was.
I didn't even realize it was the same car, so that's interesting. See,
Yeah.
I've been missing out on everything to do with that car.
It kind of speaks to No Time to Die, though. Like they put a lot of little affectations
They did.
for
They
Bond
did, yeah.
fans in that movie.
Yeah.
So
I know when I saw that car, I was like,
So nobody voted for the yellow car that literally rolls.
we had
down
one or
the
two
hill.
votes for it, but it didn't make
yes,
it yet.
we had some votes
There
for
it
that.
is down there, the yellow from Fear Eyes Only.
Yeah,
It
no, it got
rolls.
votes.
Yeah,
it
wait
literally
till we
rolls
get to
head
the
over heels down the
unloved section.
or I guess ass over tea kettle, as they say in the continent.
We got votes for just about anything you could think of.
Except for the Moonraker space station.
No one voted for the
The
Moonraker
Moonraker
space
space
station.
Dang it! The shuttle. All right, the shuttle I like. The space.
Oh, sorry, I meant the
station,
shuttle. Yeah, we got no votes for that. So,
One guy wrote in and said, "Don't pick the space shuttle."
yeah.
And well, there were 5 of them. They actually made 5 full, actually functioning space shuttles for that
Elon
movie.
Musk owns 4 of them.
He owns 4. The other is in my backyard.
Storage says.
All right.
Sweden.
So there were the top 10 Bond vehicles as voted by you, our listeners out there and social media followers. Now let's cap this off by doing a quick around the room and let each host weigh in on what they think is an underrated Bond vehicle. An underrated Bond vehicle. Alan, what is an underrated Bond vehicle?
Actually, I'm looking right at it. The wet bike. The world's first jet ski. So when that debuted in The Spy Who Loved Me, yes, that was literally the prototype of what became the ubiquitous jet ski. So that is actually the world's first jet ski we're sat here looking at. We have 2 of them. We have that one and one for spares. They are, and it's a fun little vehicle to work on and sit on. Not taking it on the water, but
I was going to ask.
no, we haven't taken it on the water because there is literally only 2 in the world.
Wow.
So you take it the right water, you might find that DB5.
Take it out of the Florida Keys.
There it is.
Get one of those buckets with the glass bottom on, like
There you go.
they had in Thunderbolt. But yeah, no, I think that it's only on screen for maybe a minute or so.
Yeah,
but,
less than that.
I just like that idea, the idea of it literally being a Bond gadget or something that was in a Bond movie that spawned a completely new line of vehicles.
Sir Rod's in that uniform, right?
yeah.
Man.
That's what to me is interesting about it is that when anybody watches The Spy Who Loved Me now, they're like, okay, he took a jet ski out there.
Yeah.
What's the big deal, right?
But at the time, it was like a motorcycle that goes on
But
water.
Nobody knows that. It's one of those things that you wish that they had some way of letting people know this is really cool, because yeah, you see it on the screen now, and it's just like he's on a motorcycle.
He's not doing any jumps or nothing.
I literally yawn now when I see him on that thing because it's so common now.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that it can't be more appreciated, for what it actually was.
Good
So,
underrated vehicle.
All right, Jarrod, what you got for your underrated Bond vehicle?
My underrated Bond vehicle is gonna come with a question to Alan. My underrated Bond vehicle is I love the motorcycle from Never Say Never Again. I love that scene. I love watching him with the rocket boost and all that stuff. It's just tricked out. I can't remember what kind.
It's a Yamaha.
It is a Yamaha. There you go, Yamaha motorcycle. And so the question that I want to pose to Alan is that something that the Fleming Foundation would do since it's outside of Eon? But A, have you ever seen it? And B, if they did have the opportunity, would the Fleming Foundation do that one? Because it's not Eon.
Yes. I mean, we're separate from Eon. We work with Eon. Obviously, we get a lot of help from Eon, and they're really great partners. But we do. The foundation is set up to celebrate the works of Ian Fleming. So
there you go.
And James Bond. So yes,
and Kevin McClory apparently.
And Kevin McClory. Well, actually, there's a Thunderbolt thing over there. So you said better Kevin McClory.
There you go.
So if we found it, yes, I think we would. I don't think anybody knows where it is. I think it was one of those things, as we were talking about earlier, about some of the other stuff, that at the end of the movies, in the early days, they would just basically just destroy them or get rid of them or take all the gadgets off. I mean, Aston Martin did it with, we're talking about the DB5. When those were returned to Aston Martin, they took all the gadgets off and just put them out and sold them as if they were ordinary DB5s. So, nobody really thought about it back then. So I don't know where that vehicle is, that motorcycle is. If we found it, I'm sure we'd be interested. I'm not speaking for the foundation on that, by the way, but, just theoretically, I think.
Well, if you knew where it was, let us know. We'll let Alan know. But I still think that it's interesting that sort of the outlier Bond, Never Say Never Again, to this day, I think still has the best motorcycle scene in a James Bond film. Although there's been some recent ones that have been dececent. But this is like a Q bike, though.
Do you know what really annoys me about the last couple of movies where they've had the Q scene? In the last 2 Bond movies, they've had motorcycles in the background.
But they're not using them.
That they worked on and they're never used. And it's like, I want to know what.
Yeah.
So
Never Say Never Again. Still the king of the motorcycle Bond, if you ask me.
All right. Let's see who hasn't gone yet. I've lost the order.
It's all- Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Okay. I've got 2 because on me, so I can do two.
That's Jason.
The first one is, and I'm looking at it right now. I think is that a Cessna?
Yes.
A Cessna plane from License to Kill. This is the getaway plane for one Franz Sanchez, and I'm bringing this up because we've been trying to get Robert Davi to come on our show.
Oh,
Robert,
God.
if you're listening,
Really?
we really love this plane. We really like to have you on the show, and we reward loyalty. Great thing.
Yes.
But my real answer is got to be the banana car that you brought up.
Citrion is that what it's called?
Yeah,
De Chevaux.
C2
2CV.
2CV.
De Chevaux.
De Chevaux. Okay,
Hell,
got
that's
it. Okay. From For Your Eyes Only, Molina's car. The reason why I think it's underrated is because to me, that was one of the coolest car chases in the franchise history. And it's a little car. The stunt drivers and the effects people had to, number one, they had to amp up the car something fierce. So they put in a whole different engine. In order to make it sound right, they had to add a second exhaust. So it wasn't obvious that they added an extra engine.
Mhm.
And then they just had some of the best stunt driving, I think, of any of the Bond chases. Got no love from you guys. So I'm going to say the banana car.
Well, it got votes.
It did get votes, yes. Yeah.
I can't look at it without hearing that Tommy trivia song
Yeah,
from
I
James
know.
Bond Radio.
Yeah. Driving the country, yeah. I know, that's ruined that movie for me. When I watch the movie, all I hear is Tommy.
Which Delvin has finally agreed is the best Bond movie out there. Right?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
All right, so Delvin, we are to you with your underrated Bond vehicle.
Well, it's a running joke with rookie and rogue agents that like I am terrible with any form of transportation at all. So like I would be terrible at this. So I'm just gonna punt and say the space shuttle from.
All right, here we go. Well played. Well played.
They'd be happy. I tell you, I've probably never been as excited about a vehicle in a Bond movie as I was in 1979 when those space shuttles took off
Got
from Brazil to go.
shirt on.
Yeah, in fact, I'm wearing my Drax Industries, hoping that they'll hire me and put me on the Moonraker shuttle program. That would be great.
Well, we're actually not far from the Drax factory, if I get, because we're halfway
Ah.
between LAX and where the factory is.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you just need to go down the
Down,
freeway a little bit.
just hitchhike right down there and get a job with Drax. Yeah, he's a very chill boss, from what I understand. He's very
Yeah.
calm.
Very mellow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when I applied a while back, Drax's response was, "Well, if you can get him." All
He
right.
doesn't snap his fingers.
Yeah. I think he wanted me to feed his dogs or something. I don't know who. So I actually have kind of like a top 6, and I can do it. So I'm going to do it.
Jason in overdrive here.
Yeah.
Here we go. I've been adding to them as we've been talking. And the reason why is because being here in the room in this awesome place, seeing these things, it really makes you get excited about them all over again and remember what is so cool about them. And so, yeah, that's kind of what happened with me is I'm like, oh, I can't forget that one. Oh, but that one. But that one, you know. So, and I'll give an honorable mention. In fact, the little dune buggy down there, I believe that's the dune buggy that Pierce Brosnan's wife got run over with.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Wow.
It's the actual one. Yeah.
Good gosh. holy
Countess
cow.
Lisa.
Yeah, Countess Lisa. That's right.
Lisa
From Liverpool, right? She
That's
turned out to
right,
be
yeah.
from Liverpool. All right. So here's the ones. I love over here to our left, the Quantum of Solace. Is that what is that? What car is that? What
It's a
kind of-
DBS.
That's a DBS? Okay. Because I like the story associated with it. I've always said, we've talked about this, that the opening of Quantum of Solace is one of my favorite Bond openings because that opening car chase is just so hardcore, just blasting away at each
Playing
other.
on loop right there.
Yeah,
on
banging
screen.
away. I love it. Oh yeah, where it comes in off the water and it comes up on the highway, and it's the car chase that's happening from the end of Casino Royale. It really shows that continuation. I love that the story I like about that car though is that they had several versions of it and they had to keep the continuity of the damage.
Mhm.
So they have multiple cars like that were each damaged the same way so that it looked like it was the same car as it took more and more damage in that crazy opening scene. I think that's really cool. Also, we've got 2 speedboats that I have to mention here.
There's the speedboat we're looking at down there from Moonraker. Again, everything in Moonraker is awesome, which is that silver speedboat that the hang glider comes out the top of.
Hang glider's above it.
Yeah, and the hang glider is here right above it. And Alan was just talking earlier about how they had to restore the whole upper half of that boat. What can you tell the folks?
Yeah, so when we found it, basically it had been completely gutted and was being used as a bass fishing boat. So pretty much everything from the waistline up has been rebuilt and put together and restored by the Ian Fleming Foundation. So including all the gadgets on the back.
Got the mines and the torpedo and everything.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually got it here, but we actually have one of the actual torpedoes from the movie signed by Richard Keel.
Nice.
And it says "Miss Me."
Nice, very cool. The other speedboat that's here is from Live and Let Die, right? Isn't it it's Live and Let Die. It's the white one that jumps over the road.
Yeah, it's the world record jump holder. And it is the actual world record holding boat, and it's on the far wall.
That's so cool, yeah. And it didn't have a slide whistle, unlike the one in Man with the Golden Gun. So we'll give it double credit for that. All right, there's the motorcycle from Tomorrow Never Dies. And here's the reason I wanted to mention that one is when I saw it for the first time here and on the website, I didn't recognize it because throughout almost that entire scene in Tomorrow Never Dies, you have two people sitting on it and you can't see the motorcycle hardly. You can kind of see you see the handlebars a lot and the front wheel, but you're mostly seeing Brosnan and Michelle Yeoh. And so this is like the first time I actually saw the motorcycle by itself and went, oh, it's green. Oh, I see the name on the side of it. I mean, I just didn't really know what it looked like because you just mostly see them. You know what I mean? There's people draped over it with the handcuffs and all. So that was just kind of neat to actually see what the motorcycle looked like. So that was a pretty cool deal. And then it's not here, but I wanted to mention the jetpack from Thunderball because that was really exciting, especially back in the 60s, right? It was just a cool thing to see somebody flying around in a jetpack. And then my big winner, though, is the gondola hovercraft from Moonraker. You know it's impressive because it even made a pigeon do a double take. So you know it is impressive. All right, gentlemen. So any last thoughts before you wrap things up? Anybody? Alan, you got any last tidbits for folks from the things that are here?
Oh, I could go on for hours. I've already walked the guys around here and told lots of stories about all these vehicles. Do come out here if you've got any interest in barn-to-barn vehicles. This is a great exhibit. Even if you went to the one in London, try and get to this one. It's bigger. There's some different vehicles in it. It's a great mix of stuff from the Ian Fleming Foundation and Eon Productions and the museum all in together. It's beautifully staged. I've been up close with most of these vehicles on and off over the last 10 years, but just seeing them in this environment is just mind-blowing. I love it. Thanks to the Petersen Museum for having us out, giving us access on our own to this space, these vehicles is just absolutely amazing.
We get to take one home each, right?
Yeah.
That was part of the deal.
That was part of the deal.
I call the DB5.
Yeah. I get the one where the wheels don't even roll.
So and thanks to everybody for making the trip out here and doing this. And Pat, we miss you. Wish you could have been with us, but it's great because this is actually the first time I've met.
Yeah.
Delvin,
Me.
and Jason in person. So it's really cool.
Was it everything that you hoped it would be?
It's probably what he expected.
It's probably what I expected. But yeah, hoped and expected. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, come out here if you're a Bond fan, if you love the Bond vehicles, or even if you're just a car guy. And just some of the stuff we just saw walking in this morning just blew my mind from a car guy perspective. So This is an amazing museum and this is an amazing exhibit. I think it runs till October. So you've only got a few more months to get out here and check it out, but please do.
I want to thank, in addition to the Bond in Motion folks, Petersen Automotive Museum, I want to thank first Alan for all that you do with the Fleming Foundation to make all this even happen, even possible, that these vehicles are around.
Oh, I'm on a very small part. I'm not one of the main guys. I'm just one of the grunts that gets out there and
you're
gets his
part
hands
of it.
dirty. But
I want to thank Jarrod for putting together a lot of the structure of this episode so that we had stuff to talk about while we were here. That was awesome. And Alan for his part of it. I don't know what you guys did, but you did it great.
I brought that microphone.
You did a great job, and we are so glad to have you. I want to thank Kathy Bright for all that she has done.
Okay, she's behind the camera, but she's right there.
She's back there behind it, but she's been a tremendous help, as always. And then the listeners and the voters in our poll. And we appreciate your support of On Her Majesty's Secret Podcast and other White Rocket shows so much, and we hope you enjoyed our little visit to Bond in Motion. All right, guys, are we good?
All right.
Yeah.
I'm
Thanks,
gonna go,
everybody.
I'm gonna go turn them
as,
off.
As he's turning it off, this Ski-Doo from the Pierce Bros.
Die Another
Thank
Day.
you, Die Another Day movie. You can actually climb on that.
Yeah. So
On Her Majesty's Secret podcast will return.
Bum, bum. Bye.
bye.